everyone. So forgive me, I'm feeling slightly slap happy. I need more coffee. I need to be caffeinated properly, not just halfway. This is me halfway caffeinated. I'm slightly chatterboxy, and I am slightly. I have less filters and I'm more babbly. So this video is about me creating my Halloween cloak. I don't have the pattern over here with me, but I do know it's a simplicity one. It is a fully lined cloak with arm slits and a detachable collar that I did in fur. You could probably get away with doing this detachable collar in velvet, in any shiny material that you do not want to wash. I like this pattern simply because I want to be able to wash anything on the outer in case it gets soaked or in case it, starts smelling funky. But the whole thing, besides the detachable collar, is washable. The detachable collar is made out of faux fur, so I have to dry clean that. But it is like that big, as opposed to a whole cloak that needs to be dry cleaned. For this video, it will be, again, my usual style, but this is part of my Halloween series, so it is my everyday cloak, but it is also my Halloween ensemble. I'll be wearing this with a black skirt and some kind of top and be calling it good. Probably wear my boots. But it is I got this fabric on sale for like $3 a yard. It took 3.5 yards to make. Then it is fully lined. It has a novelty closure at the front, and it also has a back tab. It looks, it makes me feel like a Disney villain, if that makes sense. You'll see it at the end of the video, and I hope you all enjoy. Okay, this is working? Yes. I think I'll move it up. There we go. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Okay, and I'm pressing play. Okay, so I really like this fabric. It is a rayon blend, so it is a little bit a looser weave than I probably should have used, but I think this will be great for the purpose that I'm using it for. So here I am showing you that I am getting ready to do the stay stitching around the collar to try and hold its shape. You do this about 1/4 of an inch. The reason you do this, from what I've experienced, is sometimes fabrics will shift and they will warp while you're working with them, especially if you have to let them hang. This is why you will do stitching around the collars. This is why you will do stitching around the front of blouses. Because when you work with these fabrics, especially if anything is even slightly loosely woven, they can warp really easily. So they tell you to do this stay stitching in a specific direction to help hold the shape of what you're sewing. Also, they tend to instruct you to do this when you're using collars, so anything where you have to handle it, manipulate it quite a bit around the edges. So here I am pinning the front and the front sides together. I'm trying to do this somewhat carefully so that when it comes out, it, sits right. But yeah, I'm just pinning between the notches. I'm using a lot of pins, and I do plan on sewing over these pins. Yes, I sew over my pins. That is just part of what I do. I am a home seamstress. I have had no professional training. All this I just pick up from watching other people's videos and doing my own thing, basically. So I just try to match up notches and nooks, and I did try to pattern match at least the front sides and the back sides. I figured at the outside seam it would do its own thing. This is a rather large plaid. It's called a window pane plaid. There's a gray stripe running through it, and there's a blue stripe running through it. So I just did the best I could to match up the fronts and match up the backs. On this pattern, there's a front, there's a back, and there is a side back and a side front. Side back and the side front are basically wedge shapes that help give fullness at the bottom while leaving the back, you know, a back. Actually, now that I think about it, if I wanted to make the American Duchess cape, all I'd have to do is change the front. But yes, I really enjoyed this pattern, if you can't tell. By the way, I'm kind of rambling. But yes, here I am just sewing down the side fronts, I think. I don't think I did the side backs yet, but it's the same stitch. You just do a straight stitch 1/4 of an inch in, and you do need to be careful about how you press the seams, because on the side front you have to leave a gap for your arms, so you've got arm slits. And here I am getting ready to prep the back and the side back. I'm just checking to see if it'll line up and match, because yeah, I kind of wish I'd pulled the fabric out and like unfolded it and gotten this back directly on a line and made sure the bottom lined up on a line. But live and learn. This was a $20 cloak. It wasn't that expensive, all things considered. Well, $25 including the pattern. But I thoroughly enjoyed making this cloak. Cloaks are in this season. Oh. But yes. So here I am again, 1/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch in, not 1/4 of an inch, that would be too thin. 5/8 of an inch in. And then with this fabric, I had to really press it. I don't show my pressing, but I really had to press it open to get it to stay open. Here's another angle of me trying to be very, very careful about doing this, because I'm trying to do it nicely. I suppose I should give advice for doing this. If you're nervous at all about doing a project, go slow. Do the thing, but go slow, so that while you're doing it, you can pay attention to what you're doing, as opposed to getting distracted halfway through and figuring out you messed up something because you weren't paying attention to what you were doing. Also, mark everything you can. If they tell you to mark something, mark it, because it's probably there for a reason. But here I am just matching the fronts and the backs up. I think I did this one side at a time so that I wouldn't, again, mess up too badly. Also, I did not film me assembling the lining because it's exactly the same as assembling the front. There is no, like, placket at the front. At least I don't think there was. No, there wasn't. There was just cut twice. So, yes. Also, one piece of advice, if you're doing this pattern yourself, is to baste down the arm opening, press it open, and then pull out the basting stitch before you assemble the front and back together. I did not baste, and I did not press as well as I should have, and it shows. Also, if you can, baste down those edges before you assemble, and then pull out the basting stitches after you assemble, because, well, for me with this fabric, it was very thick and it was kind of hard to work with. It does make a lovely weight for this, and if I could, I'd probably go back and get 3 more yards and make myself a skirt out of it. But live and learn. I should have gotten the other 3 yards they had while they had it on sale. Well, on clearance, so it's no longer there. but it is a nice weight. It's a rayon weight. It's a rayon suiting weight at that. So, and then on the inside I did a silver lining, like the whole thing is silver. So it's I'm calling it my modern witch aesthetic. So yes, here I am assembling the other side. Basically, you just sew along the outer edge. This way you don't have a shoulder dart, which you can have on some cloak patterns. Here I am assembling the back tab. This goes back to like pea coats or military trench coat styles. So it does give it a little bit of a historical flavor without being too historical. I'm rambling, aren't I? I should really just stick to the pattern. Let me know if you think I should stick to the pattern. But yeah, I'm just again matching up the corners. There are no darts on this. It's just a rectangle. It's like a 9-inch rectangle by 3 inches. But I did mark where the buttons are supposed to go on this. And that's one thing about this pattern is you have to pay attention to where the markings are, because I forgot to mark where the tab was supposed to go, and then I spent like a half an hour trying to figure it out, and finally I just went, oh, about here is good. It's about where my waistline is. So, yes, even if you think you're doing it right, just double check on everything, because you never know if you're missing a step or missing a mark. But here I have sewn up the seams. Now I'm clipping the corners. I then turned out the corners with my handy dandy old hemostats. And then I'm just slip stitching, which you slip the needle into the seam allowance and then go onto the other side and try to keep it somewhat straight. But I'm slip stitching the turn-out opening closed. And then I can attach it to the cloak before I attach the lining to the cloak so that the seamage is hidden. Yeah, I'm sure I make sense. I make sense in my brain sometimes. But yes, here I am trying to match up the where I thought the thing should go, but it wasn't looking really right while I was doing it because I couldn't just, put it there and then stand back and look. It was kind of looking lopsided when I was doing that. Maybe that's because I didn't have 2 pins ready to go. But so I just ended up instead of trying to do it straight, I ended up just deciding to go along the line because then it at least look straight. When in doubt, go with the line. So here I am assembling the collar piece. I've already fused the interface to one side of it. And yes, this pattern does use fusible interfacing. So yeah. So yeah, you just sew along the sides and the back part and then flip it inside out again, and then you can baste along that edge, which is what I'm doing here. I'm sewing along the bottom and then I'll turn it and sew along the side, or side, then bottom, then side, and then I'll flip it out and press it really, really well you can, if you can. I tried to reinforce these corners because I do know that this will probably be where most of the wear and tear will come from. So I tried to press it as well as I could. And I tried to reinforce those corners when I remembered to. My mind is like a leaky sieve. Everything goes out, nothing stays in. So yes. Press the seams as much as you can, and then I do believe here I'm trying to match up the notches for the collar as well as the front part because I want it to look nice, or as nice as I can. And then you baste down the collar and then you attach the lining. And like I said, I didn't film myself assembling the lining because it's exactly like assembling the exterior of the cloak. So yes, I think I start out by matching up the corners and then matching up the notches on the collar. And yes, I use this silver because then it'll, when it peeks out, when I, do twirls or a gust of breeze picks up, it shows off that lining. Also, if I thought about it, I would have made it so that the lining was a little bit, the seams were a little bit further in, so that when I assembled the arm slits, it wouldn't have peeked through quite as much. But live and learn. So here I am getting ready to assemble the detachable collar, which I did in faux fur. It's a faux fur I have left over from 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I think. It's when I was making my tutor gown for the turned back sleeves. I did a faux fur of wolf faux fur. So I just took what I had left over, took the largest piece of what I had left over, and made myself this detachable collar from it, which is probably where I get the Disney villain vibes from. And yes, it does use elastic, which thankfully is no longer a scarce commodity. So yes, I pinned down these 2.5-inch strips after spending half an hour cutting these strips because I was trying to measure it but not pull on the elastic. Oh, fun times. So yes, after I attached the elastic, I then basted it down. As you can see, I did use bright green so that if I needed to, I could pull it out. And I just used this because I used this thread because I just wasn't sure I would ever use it for anything else. And there are 6 loops you end up doing. You then lay the exterior fabric, which I'm using this faux fur. Again, you could probably use a velveteen, heavy brocade, satin, any type of really heavy fabric that you wanted. I do plan on some point making a couple other collars like this to go with this cloak because I enjoy the thought process of being able to remove it and put it on and remove it and put it on, depending on what I'm wearing. This one is great if I'm going to be wearing just about anything because brown is neutral, at least in my mind. But this is like a brown with gray and maybe a silver in it, so it goes really well with this cloak. Yeah. And then once you've sewn those, you again turned it inside out. Here I am trying to turn out as much as I can. I ended up getting a cheap plastic comb and like combing down so that it would lay somewhat nicely along the bottom because I forgot to. So yes, this is my cloak. I will probably be using this all fall, all spring. It's a nice weight. It's a nice length. So but yes, it goes a little bit under my posterior, and I find it looks rather nice on me. I think it's a good color for me, and I think it looks rather nice. I had a little problem with the collar. I ended up having to pinch the clasp closed a little more because when I used the armholes, it didn't want to stay closed, so I took a pair of pliers and pushed in the clasp a little more so that it would hold itself closed. But yes, it has arm slits, it has the detachable collar, it has the placket in the back, so it looks kind of historical. But yes, I'm pleased, and I hope you all enjoyed watching me scramble through this process.